Hey guys, welcome back to more relationship stories. What would you do if your wife sent you a text message saying that she will divorce you and then emptied your joint bank accounts and took away your kids? Let's dive right into the story. I am an extremely hardworking man. My family is important to me. I work in corporate finance and at the same time try to always be at special activities that my children have, like their soccer games and dance recitals. I often work extra hours to be able to provide for my family. I also love my wife and we have a good life, but she cares a great deal about materialistic things in life and that requires funds. I'd been finding her distant for a while and tried to talk to her about it, but she kept brushing me off. Not wanting to have a confrontation, I let things be for the most part and just made sure that when I was home, I spent as much quality time as possible with my kids. One afternoon last year, as I was working at my desk, I received a text message from my wife. She announced that she was filing for a divorce, and I was stunned. I knew things were not great between us, but I was not expecting an out-of-the-blue divorce announcement. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. I texted her back and said that I thought we should consider counseling, but still no reply. I tried to work, but my mind was spinning. I had no idea what I should do to try and get through to her. I wondered if she was actually serious or just having a bad day. But when I got home, I found something that I was not expecting. My children were gone, as were most of their belongings. I decided to take a drive around the block to see if I could find out anything. After a few hours of nothing, I was beginning to feel nauseous and figured it was because I had not even eaten lunch that day. I decided to go for supper at a fast food place, but when I went to pay, my bank card was declined. I ended up using my credit card to pay, but immediately went to the bank and used the ATM. I was surprised to find out that there was only $5 left in our account. My wife and I had a joint account, so I suspected that she must have been the one to clean it out. We'd had $87,000 in that account. We had been saving to be able to buy a new house, and now I had no money and my wife and children were gone. I could have gone wild in that moment, but somehow I managed to stay as calm as I could. I headed back home and started calling around to see if I could get any trace on where my wife and kids were for the night. I did not think that she would hurt them, but now I felt doubtful of our whole relationship. I tried calling my wife again and this time found that the number had been disconnected. I tried to look on her social media accounts but discovered that I had been blocked from seeing her pages. I felt at an extreme loss as to what to do. I began to message some of her friends and relatives in hopes that she might be with one of them or that they might know what was going on, but it was unsuccessful. By midnight, I was frantic and decided to call the police. They promised to put out an Amber Alert and information on my wife's car. I called into work for the next day. I knew that I needed to try and locate my family. I decided to go through my wife's desk and closet in hopes that she had left behind some clues. To my surprise, I discovered that she had been running an illegal dropshipping business using our home address. However, I'd never known about it or reported any of that income on her taxes. My wife had apparently set up a separate account in her mother's name. In her rush to get away from me, she had left behind some things, including proof of a bank account that had been opened under her mom's name to hide the money in. I took the proof to the police and they thanked me for the information as it gave them another account they could survey to see if any transactions popped up while they searched for my wife and kids. The police managed to track down my wife out of state nearly a week after she had disappeared. However, my wife claimed that she had to escape me to save her life and that of the children because I was supposedly physically and emotionally abusive to them. I was shocked when the police told me that. I filed for an emergency custody hearing so that things could be looked after. This required my wife and the children to return to our town. They got a room in a hotel. Child Protective Services and the police were now highly involved in the file too. I was not sure what was going to happen. I even began receiving messages from some mutual friends that my wife had contacted them about my supposed abuse. I knew she was trying everything she could to justify what she had done. I just could not understand any of it because I had provided a great life for my wife and children, and I knew that my wife had not been as loving the last 6 months or so, but I thought maybe she had been just going through a phase or something. And given that she had not wanted to talk to me about it, I had been rather powerless. However, now I decided to try and regain my power. I needed to do everything possible to get my kids back. I wanted to make sure that everything was on my side as much as possible, and therefore I also contacted the IRS and provided them with detailed evidence of my wife's tax evasion. I hope to prove that my wife thought this out thoroughly and that for whatever reason she was doing it, it had nothing to do with me. Eventually, my kids ended up getting placed in a foster care type of situation. There was just too much trouble in the family. My wife accused me of child abuse, and I obviously thought she was guilty of kidnapping and stealing our money as well as tax evasion. I was so angry that my kids would be taken away from me and placed in foster care for the time being. I spoke with Child Protective Services afterwards and managed to get visitation a few times a week, but it was so heartbreaking to have my children ask me what is going on, and it was humiliating to require someone to be in the same room as us. I couldn't take them for ice cream or the park, we were stuck in an institutional setting just talking, and I could not answer their questions. I could not even answer my own. Well, the next time we ended up in court with our lawyers, numerous amounts of evidence were presented to the judge. The IRS investigation revealed that my wife owed hundreds of thousands in back taxes and penalties. She was arrested for tax fraud and parental kidnapping. The IRS, however, seized the joint account money. While things looked alright on my side, that money had been ours and therefore I had no recourse as far as getting it back. So basically, I would have to set up a new account in my name only and live from paycheck to paycheck, all the while trying to give my children some sense of normalcy while their mother served time in jail. We didn't really know how much time it would be until she went to trial on both the kidnapping and tax fraud charges. Also, the money that she had taken from our joint account would only cause her to have increased penalties too. Our house was also in both of our names, and I didn't know what would happen with it. The good news for the time being was that it was paid. I hoped that the IRS would see that it had been paid for with legally earned and recorded money, and that my children and I needed a place to live. Already our lives had been completely turned upside down by my wife's secret life. "I'm sorry," said my wife when I went to see her in jail as she awaited her trial. She had requested to see me, and I had decided to go despite having some mixed feelings about it. "How did we get here?" I asked. "You were not enough for me anymore," she said. "A lot of couples live happy lives after getting a divorce," I said. "We could have too if I really made you that unhappy, but to start an underground business and not report income and then to take the kids out of state and to lie about my treatment of our kids. I cannot believe you went to such length to punish me." "I don't know," she said. "Maybe I just wanted more." I left feeling worse about everything than before. None of it made any sense, but there was nothing that I was going to be able to do about it. All I could do at home was to try to make the best of the situation for my children. They returned to school and got to see their friends and participate in their extracurricular activities. I arranged for childcare services to take place after school. I took on some extra work to be able to have the funds for us to try and maintain a certain lifestyle. I did not want my kids to have to give up on their activities just because their mom had done terrible things. It was not their fault, and I did not want them to feel like they were being punished. It was not going to be an easy road to regain our financial security, but I knew that with hard work I could succeed. My wife had tried to punish me, but in the end I had managed to get revenge on her by uncovering her secrets and getting my kids back. Having them was really all that mattered. Edit. Sorry, I saw some comments asking about what happened to my wife. It seems like I wrote this in a confusing manner. I'm so sorry for that. Honestly speaking, I'm still incredibly upset about all this and got a bit emotional throughout. My wife ended up behind bars and I'm glad that she is gone. And now we will read another relationship story about two people getting divorced. This one is titled, "My 28 male wife, 32 female keeps throwing divorce in my face over everything. So I just agreed and left." Well, I'm currently staying with my sister. My wife and I have been together for 5 years, married for 4, and we had known each other for years prior. We have one kid together who is 4. I'm the primary breadwinner in the house as she is a stay-at-home mom. It was her choice not to go back to work. For the last year and a half, we've been having arguments about 1 to 2 times a month. To be clear, I do help out with our daughter, I clean, I cook, and I'm involved with both of them. The first time she said she wanted a divorce was when we got into an argument when my sister called and asked if she could stay with us for a bit as she was having relationship problems, which is ironic. I said she could and my wife was not happy about that. I pointed out that her friend stayed with us a couple months prior for 5 weeks and didn't do anything around the house. Plus, she was just there, no discussion, no nothing. She was a stranger to me and my daughter. My sister, by the way, is lovely and has a great relationship with our daughter, and I thought my wife was as well. She ended up staying with us for a week, helping around the house, cooking, cleaning, and watching our daughter when needed. I thought we both forgave each other and moved on. Well, the fights are usually over something small. 90% are not started by me. I've suggested therapy and counseling, but she always said she/we never needed it. Well then, I had it last night. She picked a fight saying I was spending too much time at work and that she feels abandoned and that I'm not a good father, ended her rant with, "I want a divorce." I stood up and told her that the only reason I work so much is because she cannot stop spending added at the time of the argument I used our money, typing it out it came out as my money on accident. We agreed to split the money into bills, future savings, future daughter, and fun money on things that we don't need or use. She refused to get a job or go to school to help her out. I provide for the family, for my daughter, and I'm always at her important dates, functions, doctor's appointments, anything she needs. She refused to get help through therapy or counseling, and I don't want this anymore. I will have my lawyer send her the papers when she writes it up. I got my daughter's things, left with her to my sisters. It has been 2 days and she keeps calling and texting saying that she is sorry, but she didn't mean it. Now apparently she wants to go to counseling and therapy. She needs me, she misses me, etc. I don't know what to do. I love her, she's a good mother, but I cannot do this anymore. Internet strangers, please help. And yes, I have a lawyer for my family and work. I've known her since I was a teen. And yeah guys, I'm curious, if you would be in this situation, or if you could give OP some advice, what would you say? Would you proceed with the divorce, or would you try and make things better? AKA, try and work things out. I'm curious what you have to say about this, let me know in the comments. And when you're done writing the comment, we got an update from OP. He said, I've offered several times in the past to help her with finding work or going back to school, and every time she would shut it down immediately. I told her that I would reduce my hours to help, but we would have to cut back on spending. I know parenting is a full-time job. I proposed options. My sister offered to watch her for the week if my wife had classes or work. My sister is genuinely nice to everyone, and she is not a gossip or a person who talks behind your back. I do 98% of the cooking, I do the grocery shopping, and 80% of the cleaning. In charge of bath time as well as getting her to bed and waking her up in the morning. All of this while working 60 hours a week. Being at my sister's last couple of days with my daughter showed me that I was doing most of the work. Not much has changed, just finding what show or game she wants to play. I would gladly switch with her. I hate working so much. I miss my family and miss my daughter. My wife's friend was a stranger to me. I'd never met her or seen her. She was mentioned I think 2 times during our relationship and she was not at our wedding. My wife and she were friends in high school, but I guess she moved and then lost touch. Years later she called out of the blue and moved in, and yes, she was a stranger. I know my wife is a good mom. I've had the last few days off of work as it was the weekend. I have this week off as well, and when we had our daughter we agreed on a plan for budgeting until my wife would go back to work or school. We broke it down into bills paid, future savings, daughter's future, and fun money. Over the last year because of unnecessary spending. It was unnecessary, we couldn't put anything towards future savings. Also, the bonus I got was already spent before I even got it. However, I'm not blameless by any means. I work much to provide a good life for my wife and daughter, and I fought for our relationship. It is hard to keep fighting when all my partner does is kick me when I'm down. I try not to do it when my daughter is around, but my wife does not care who is in the room. And someone in the comments said, the fact that you took your kid from your wife, who you admit is a good mom and is a stay-at-home mom, speaks volumes. You have taken away her purpose without any care for how that must feel. Your wife sounds like she's depressed, excessive spending, and having no enthusiasm around the house are both common symptoms. She is lonely and using divorce and arguments as a way to seek assurance that you still want to be with her. She sounds insecure and needs help. And OP answered, there's been a lot going on since I first posted, but I want to point out some things that it seems was missed or looked over. I would do everything again if I had to, including taking my daughter. I've pushed her to go out, find a job, get a hobby, meet new friends and do something, anything. I reached it to people to help out, asked about seeing someone for help. She would not listen though, or consider anything I have presented. She kept saying no, or she was not the problem. My daughter is my priority. I don't want to fight with my wife in front of her or around her. I grew up in a bad household. I've been in the position where my dad got angry at my mom, and my mom left and my dad took it out on me. I don't ever want that for her. I don't know what my wife was going to do that night. You cannot force someone to get help. They have to want it, actually want it. If you force someone, they will go through the motions just to make it look like they changed. I'm not blameless in this, but I cannot raise my daughter with her thinking this is okay behavior, or this is how relationships are supposed to be like. I decided when I was young that I would never be like my dad. Update to the story. Unfortunately, this is not a sunshine and rainbows update. I posted a few months back about how my wife kept throwing divorce in my face on a regular basis. Well, that was until I did okay, got my daughter, and left. I needed to vent, so I posted here, and well, after I made my post I had a bunch of time to think about it. I decided that I had to make sure she knew how serious I was. We sat down and I flat out told her I couldn't do this anymore. The fighting and threatening of divorce has to stop. She agreed and said she would not say it again. I told her that the next time it was thrown out, it would be the last time. We agreed to go to couples therapy, and it was eye-opening. Things were said, feelings were brought up, and outside professional views helped us understand the other person better. After a few sessions, I thought we were doing better. She started to apply herself more, she looked and obtained a job, made some friends and got a hobby. That was until an argument started because we had plans in regards to our daughter that she overlooked and couldn't cancel the other plans she had made with some new co-workers. At what I considered the end of the argument, she said under her breath, "I knew marrying you was a mistake." I looked at her, and the thing I remember the most is how I did not recognize the woman that was standing there. She looked different to my eyes, and I didn't know who the woman was in front of me. I asked her to repeat herself. She said, "I should have divorced you years ago." I walked away and took my daughter to the plans alone, just us two. I ended up filing for legal separation. Under the terms we both signed was something along the lines of, while separated, we are still legally married and will not get involved with anyone during this time period. Finances will be separated, but bills will stay as currently split. I would still pay for insurance through work though. Other things that were in it were therapy sessions that would continue both as individuals and couples, and I would move in with my sister, and we had shared custody of our daughter, 70 me and 30% her. One day when I had my daughter, I needed my wife to take her. I let her know a week before, and she agreed. The morning of at 7:30, I went to drop her off at the house and noticed an unfamiliar car in the driveway. My first thought was, she must have a girlfriend over. I then go ring the doorbell, out of respect but still odd ringing your own doorbell, and wait with my daughter when a shirtless man, about 20, opens the door and asks who I am and what do I want. I asked for my wife, he calls her, and she comes around the corner in a robe and her face goes from curious shock to horrified sad. Needless to say, in 3 months' time when the legal separation ends, I'm filing for a decree in dissolution of marriage. My daughter is safe, she doesn't understand what's going on other than daddy and mommy are not happy with each other anymore, and as stated as above, she is my priority. I guess I did do the thing I never wanted to do, the one thing I promised myself I would never become, but I guess it could be helped. I end up just like my parents. I don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. I hope I can just show how much love I have for my daughter and raise her the best I can. Thanks for the support, comments, love and criticism. Then OP responded in regards to the dissolution of marriage. Dissolution of marriage is the fancy way to say divorce. It just means the decree is the court order that ends the marriage. OP in regards to the other man thing, well, he was just as surprised as I was when I asked to see my wife. He said something like, "I didn't know you two were married." Then said, "I'm sorry bro, it was just a one-night stand. Suffice it to say, my marriage is over." Top comment, that is hard. One day your daughter will know what her dad did to protect her. I hope you find peace in your life, OP. And yeah guys, it's actually wild that in this story at first, Reddit seemed to defend OP's wife. Sometimes Reddit can indeed be crazy. And before we end the video, we will read one last satisfying petty revenge story. It is titled, "I'm not replacing my TV on purpose." So basically, my mom left me a house when she moved away. She moved back and we agreed to have her move back into the house to save money for a future move. However, she took over the living room every night, which is the only place I can relax after my children go to bed. My son, 2.5 years old, sleeps in our room, so I cannot watch TV in there after he is asleep. I had previously asked if she could just let me have a night or two to myself to relax in silence, since my office is out there as well, or just to watch a movie. But well, my problem was solved. My son threw a toy car at the TV, not on purpose, he just throws things when he gets excited. It just happened to hit the TV and it left a huge mark on it. The thing is, I told her I cannot afford to replace it. Well, I actually can replace it, but the busted bitch just doesn't bother me, so I'm not replacing it on purpose. My mom does not want to watch TV on it now and just watches TV in her own room. She has a 60-inch TV in there and just refused to use it before, so it's not like I'm being cruel. Is it petty? Maybe, but I see it as a win-win. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my videos, please check out my endless playlist on the left, otherwise I see you again tomorrow.